Clark. Right, the 800 freestyle, the longest event we've seen so far. Won't be the longest event we will see. That will be the men's 1500 meters freestyle later in the week. But here comes the women's 800 free. And we have 5 in the first, if they're all there. And we have 5 in the second. So we're nearly in a straight final situation, but not quite. We will only drop 2 going into the final. But that's the lineup for the first of them. And there's one outstanding swimmer we'll see in the second. We'll also see, well, every possibility, I think, here, as Hannah Miley rejoins Liz and myself, that we might see something quite special from Ariane Titmus after what she did last night.
Yeah, I think we can probably guarantee that she is going to set herself up to do a pretty solid performance tomorrow night. How she'll go this morning, she may want to give us a little sneak preview, but I suspect that she will want to try and save herself so that she can give it all guns blazing. We've yet to see her race an 800 this year. Her personal best time was from from the Olympics last year. So yeah, it will be really fascinating to see what potentially she can go. Best time of an 8:13. But can she go quicker? We'll have to wait and see.
Liz, we've talked a lot about the effect that COVID's had on people. We talk about how it's had for Duncan Scott and how it's had for, well, Chad Leclos had it as well. Of course, Tom Dean had it last year. Poor Lanny Pallister got it at the World. She qualified for the 800 final, had to pull out.
Yeah, and it's been one of the biggest challenges for all the athletes, I think, because you can't do anything about it once you've got it, once you test positive. Even if you have no symptoms, you still have to go through that quarantine process. So she'll be looking for an opportunity here to use this championships to showcase what she's capable of after that good heat swim and then having to pull out.
Had a long chat with her mum this morning. Her mum is really interested in British swimming. We were having about a 10-minute discussion on British swimming earlier on today. Likes to talk about her daughter as well, but she's not an obsessive swim parent. Having done it herself, she knows what that's all about. She was a very good swimmer herself. But Lanny into her stroke nice and early here in lane number 4. Mention the others, because we may not mention them a great deal in the race. Rhea Embry-Brown of the Cayman Islands in 2. Then Mabel Zavaros of Canada in 3. Eve Thomas, well, she should be in the shake-up in lane 5. And Lily Scott of Jersey in lane number 6. But already, off that first 50, 3/4 of a second between Pallister and the rest.
Pallister went 8:24.66 before she found out she wasn't able to do the final. So we know that she has the capability of producing a very solid heat swim in the 800. But I do think Eve Thomas there, the black hat from New Zealand in lane 5, will give her a little bit of a challenge. It is the heats. They will be wanting to give some reserve, but at the same time, they'll have an eye on what lane they'd like to be in and be able to get in that mix, because Ariana will also be very, very strong tomorrow night.
Talking of New Zealand swimming, Liz, how much do they punch above their weight? We see them second on the medals table at the moment. They've been picking up medals on a regular basis last couple of nights, but they do seem, with the infrastructure they've got, to be better than some of their parts.
I think they're a small team, they're a small country, so they pool their resources, and they've got a very good community and ethos, and they work hard and they work together. They had a great training camp in Mallorca coming into this. They've made some sensible decisions. When you speak to the athletes individually, they decided whether they were going to go to World Championships and be away for a significant amount of time, or wait and sit out of the World Championships. And obviously they've been bolstered by the fact that their para swimmers have come in and collected maybe more medals than they were expecting. They've come into this swimming very, very well, and those medals do count in this environment to the overall medal table. They're not separate, and that's definitely, they've just got a vibe. You can see they're comfortable, they're happy, and they're swimming well. But the Australians, they always have that vibe, because they've got such strength and depth on a bigger scale that it does. You see your training partners doing well. You see your lane mates doing well when you're on a camp and you're put into lanes with coaches. If your domestic coach hasn't come, and you want to step up, you want to be part of that.
How hard is it to race when you know you don't really have competition? She knows she's so much better than the rest, and so she has to race the clock. How difficult is that?
It can be quite tricky, but a lot of athletes are trained to have the mindset of you have to swim your own race. So for her, she's going in with a race strategy, and I love her stroke. It's really fascinating to see that she's barely kicking compared to Eve Thomas and Mabel Zavaros. either side of her, they've got their usual 6-beat kick, maybe a 4-beat kick, but she literally is just using her legs to keep herself balanced, more of a dominant right kick as her left hand enters the water, but it's just really nice, and it just keeps it ticking over. And yeah, it'll be interesting when she hits the sort of maybe 200 mark or 100 mark to go. She'll probably start seeing the legs come in a little bit more, but she is out on her own. She'll have a race strategy, a plan. She'll be finding a rhythm and groove to stay in it and stick with it. But yeah, you get put in these situations where you might not have the competition to push you through, like say some of the sprint events. So a lot of the distance athletes, some of them you might find will be training on their own. They might have to do the really long, hard sets that keep them in longer than the rest of the swim squad that they're in. But those are the athletes that really break through and make the distance events work. It's all about mindset.
Liz, she's taking 2 seconds per 100 out of the rest of the field here.
Yeah, but she'll be coming to this, as you mentioned before, like before they went off the block. They're not her competition. Her aim here is only to get herself into the final. She will have talked with her squad before coming in. They will have seen the start list. She will have known this was going to be her situation. And everything here is about setting herself up to show you how quickly she can go in that final. All the chat is, of course, about Ariane Titmus going very well, but Lani Pallister, she'll want to challenge. She'll want to be in the mix, because every single time you swim, you have to, it doesn't matter who you're racing, you have to stand as an athlete behind the block and believe you've got a chance.
Well, the gap was so big that time that the computer didn't even show us what it was. It went from 2.87 to 4.70, but now you can see visibly how big it is. It's edging up towards, I'd say, let's see, what, about 10 meters, 11 meters at that turn. She's massively ahead of everybody else, 4:44 on that turn, and it's getting towards 15 meters between her and Zaveros, who's the surprise, well, maybe not surprise, she's Canadian, but it's not actually Eve Thomas in second place, but Mabel Zaveros of Canada is second, based in Florida, so obviously with all the American background she's got.
Yeah, she'll have that good base and foundation of work, and coming off the back of the Canadian trials this year, she was second in the 800 free, second in the 200 fly, and fourth in the 400 IM. So normally 800 freestylers tend to have a little bit more of a mixture, whether it's the 400 free, 400 IM, 200 fly. Kind of looking back, I guess, on my history as a 400 medley swimmer, I used to dabble in the 800 free, never quite up there as a solid 800 freestyler, but I remember Rebecca Cook. She was someone who I idolized, and she was also very good at a 400 IM. So it's that sort of toughness. It brings in something slightly different to your training. So she obviously has the capability and the engine to have a really strong, solid 800 free. And having Eve Thomas there on the other side will give her that little head-to-head push. They'll be biding their time. I'm pretty sure we'll start seeing a little bit more of an input through the legs, or maybe stroke right with maybe 100 to go.
So the lead is edging up towards 8 seconds over the rest of the field, but there is a battle for second place is interesting. Interesting in as much as they're going to race each other. They're probably both going to qualify for the final, but there's going to be a bit of bragging rights between the Canadian and the New Zealander for that second place. It's up to 9 seconds. It probably will be even more when she turns this time. 6:21 for Lani Pallister, and 200 to go.
Yeah, and the other thing is, with the two chasing athletes, Eve Thomas and Mabel Zaveros, is that they know that the Australians will be looking to get another 1, 2, 3 and repeat that, not the podium in terms of dominating from the Commonwealth Games back on the Gold Coast when they were at home. So the other athletes in the field have to swim smart so that when they get into that final, they've got the best chance possible to break up that Australian dominance.
Well, Pallister won't get a difference in the split time. 6:54 is what she turns in. Second place, 7:02 for Zaveros. So the lead staying around about 8 to 9 seconds. And she knows that she's broken the back of the other two. They can race each other. That's exactly what they are doing in second and third, with Thomas on the right-hand side of your screen, and to the left it is Mabel Zaveros. And I suppose in a way she can just switch things down a little bit. There's the bell to signify 100 to go. She's done the work. She's 13, 14 meters in front. Just glide home. Well, not quite glide home, but pretty much.
Yeah, you can see as well, she actually does a little leg kick off the back of the turn. So again, she's utilizing the momentum off the wall, not deciding to choose to use her legs coming into the final 100. As you said, I think she's trying to just cruise it through. A lot of good 800 swimmers will be looking to try and keep their pacing as even as possible instead of going out hard and then fading as the race goes on. Out in a 4:11. We'll see if she can maybe stick with what she did at the Worlds, which is an 8:24. We'll see whether she probably won't be as close to that, so she'll have a little bit more of a drop-off, but you can see, as you say, she's not picking it up in this last 100. She knows she's going to touch first, and she'll pretty much have a good spot in the final tonight.
And how great is that you don't have to use your feet at all in an 800 freestyle. You can just drag them along. There's not even a flutter kick. It wasn't even a flutter kick all the way through that. They were just there as kind of ballast, really, weren't they?
Yeah, pretty much, and it's all about that rhythm and timing, and it's just there to balance. The little flick kick that she would give is really, really good, and as she comes in there, 8:32, very, very comfortable, and it is Eve Thomas that takes second place, so she just got that better last 100 over Mabel Zavros from Canada, coming in at 8:40.31.
So in the end, the gap was not quite as big as it was at one stage, just easing back at the end for a 7-second advance. There's two more to come in. Lily Scott of Jersey's got an entry time at 9:20, so we'll see how close she can get to that. And Rhea Embry-Brown of the Cayman Islands with a 9:28. And I see both of those in and around their best times. Lily Scott trying to push on to get there. She might be a little bit shy, we'll see. And saying the crowd, as they always do in a very sporting way, just giving them a bit of extra encouragement to get there towards the end. Lily Scott will come in lane number 6, 9:27. So yeah, a little bit shy of her entry time. And Rhea Embry-Brown of the Cayman Islands finishes off. Smile from Lanny Pallister, now seemingly fully recovered from COVID. That was a real blow for her in Budapest recently, where she was aiming for that final and tested positive on the day that she actually did that time. 8:32.67 for our winner. 8:39.01 for Eve Thomas in second. Those top three should be okay.